Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to a strange headline. Factories across the world are shutting down. Car production has stopped in Germany. Smartphone manufacturing lines have halted in China. Electronics companies in South Korea are delaying their next generation of products. Stock markets are panicking. Global supply chains are freezing. But the reason behind all of this chaos is not a global war. It is not a natural disaster. And it is not a financial crash. Instead, it is because a single island stopped producing something the modern world cannot live without. An island just 130 kilometers off the coast of China. An island called Taiwan. And today, this small island sits at the center of one of the most dangerous geopolitical rivalries on Earth. At first glance, Taiwan may not appear particularly extraordinary. The island is roughly the size of Belgium. Its population is around 23 million people. Yet despite its modest size, Taiwan occupies an unusually powerful position in the global system. Why does the modern world depend so heavily on this one island? Why do governments across the world watch the Taiwan Strait so closely? And why do military strategists describe Taiwan as one of the most dangerous geopolitical flashpoints on Earth? To answer that, we must begin with geography. Taiwan sits along a chain of islands stretching from Japan down to the Philippines. Military strategists call this chain the first island chain. For China, this chain represents a barrier separating the mainland from the Pacific Ocean. To operate freely, Chinese naval forces must pass through narrow gaps between these islands. For the United States, however, this chain forms a defensive line limiting China's naval reach. And right in the middle of that chain sits Taiwan, which means control of Taiwan could dramatically shift the balance of power in the Pacific. To understand the political tension around Taiwan, we must go back to 1949. After decades of conflict, the Chinese Civil War ended, with communist forces defeating the nationalist government. The communists established the People's Republic of China on the mainland. The defeated nationalist government fled across the Taiwan Strait and established its government on Taiwan. From that moment onward, two governments claimed to represent China. Over time, Taiwan developed into a democratic society with its own political system and economy. China, however, continues to view Taiwan as a breakaway province. But politics alone does not explain Taiwan's importance, because Taiwan produces something the modern world cannot function without: semiconductors. Semiconductors are the brains of modern machines. They power smartphones, computers, satellites, cars, and advanced military systems. Producing these chips requires extremely precise manufacturing. Factories must operate in ultra-clean environments where even microscopic dust particles can ruin production. Over the past few decades, Taiwan has become the global leader in advanced semiconductor manufacturing. One company dominates this industry: Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. Major companies like Apple, Nvidia, and AMD rely on these factories, which means much of the global technology industry depends on manufacturing located on one small island. This concentration of semiconductor production creates a major vulnerability. If Taiwan's chip factories were disrupted, the effects would spread across the global economy almost immediately. Technology companies would lose access to critical components. Manufacturing would slow. Supply chains could collapse. During the global semiconductor shortage of 2021, even relatively small disruptions caused massive problems. Automobile manufacturers halted production. Electronics companies delayed product launches. Factories struggled to obtain critical components. And that shortage occurred even though semiconductor production never fully stopped. Now imagine Taiwan's semiconductor factories shutting down entirely. At the same time, tensions between China and Taiwan have been steadily increasing. China has repeatedly stated its intention to reunify Taiwan with the mainland. Taiwan, however, maintains its own government and military. The United States also plays a critical role. Through the Taiwan Relations Act, the United States provides Taiwan with defensive support, which means if China attempted to invade Taiwan, the United States might intervene. Invading Taiwan would require crossing the Taiwan Strait. This stretch of water is more than 100 kilometers wide. Amphibious invasions are among the most difficult military operations. Even the famous D-Day invasion during World War II required enormous preparation. Attempting such an operation against a heavily defended island would involve enormous risk. Some analysts believe Taiwan's semiconductor industry may actually protect the island. This concept is known as the Silicon Shield. Because so many countries depend on Taiwanese chips, they have strong incentives to maintain Taiwan's stability. In other words, Taiwan's technology industry may act as a form of economic deterrence. Taiwan sits at the intersection of geography, technology, and geopolitics. It occupies a strategic location in the Pacific. It produces technology essential to the global economy, and it remains at the center of a geopolitical dispute, which means a relatively small island has quietly become one of the most important places on Earth. And Taiwan is not the only place where geography shapes global power. Thousands of kilometers away in the Middle East, another region plays a critical role in global security. In our previous video, we explored why the United States maintains so many military bases and naval forces in the Middle East. If you want to understand how geography there influences global power, you can watch that video next.